Being a longtime fan of a particular genre or series has its pluses and minuses. I've been experiencing that with Star Wars recently, and anyway, uh, this is MJ. I love Tokusatsu, and right now I want to talk about Kamen Rider Zero-One Episode 13, and the fact that I'm not sure that these debuts of big, semi-final or upgrade forms for the main writer are exciting to me anymore. So, we got to see some interesting stuff. In the beginning of Kamen Rider Zero-One, when Aruto first mentioned, I was very interested by the fact that his mind was being linked up to Zaya, or Zia, I should say, the satellite, and that it was going to give him the ability to comprehend and make calculations at a faster rate than humans, than the human mind can ordinarily go, and that he could make those sorts of calculations and whatnot at the speed of an artificial intelligence, which I thought was a really neat idea. It was kind of a different spin on him becoming a cyborg. It's almost like an external cyborg where the cybernetics are being placed onto him and enhancing his capabilities and whatnot. And I thought it was very interesting. And that's true. We get to see that as now. We get to see that an ability that he uses when he's in his rising hopper form, his shining hopper, I should say, at the end of the episode when he makes a comeback, is kind of a big deal. And that ability is the ability to, instantaneously pivot or switch to the next right thing. Sorry, just saw Frozen 2. He can map out statistics or tactical paths to accomplishing the things that he wants to accomplish, which in this episode was just feeding Dodo. And I guess what's bothersome to me is that in the beginning of the episode, Dodo was shown to have the same capability. Now, as I was watching it, it wasn't communicated to me very well because I thought that perhaps what we were seeing, the overlays on the screen of where Zero-One could be, those images are apparent to us, the audience, but I thought they were being seen through the eyes of Izu. And maybe I just didn't look carefully enough, and I should have realized that it was Dodo, especially with the way that he turns towards one of the Shining Hoppers that he intercepts the punch of and then is able to best, which leads to Shining Hopper being completed, and then later he comes back. But my problem is that when he does come back, when the Shining Hopper is completed and he is able to fight against Dodo and he's victorious, he's using the exact same visual. It's using the exact same visual language, except for Dodo is now no longer able to, see the complete picture where Aruto is. I guess the confusion of that, or the reuse, or the identical usage of the visual effects is really throwing me off because it all left me a little cold. I thought it looked neat, but the fact that it looked identical for the two of them was displeasing to me. It did lead to a great line, though, which was Aruto telling Dodo that the only person who can do himself is himself, or who can overcome himself is himself. And I thought that was funny. And I don't know if I guess they did use the line about Aruto, Izu did, that he is beyond calculation, and they use that concept, that idea, which I used for an episode title a few episodes back, here, that, his Aruto's potential is beyond calculation, and the Zaya satellite failed to take that all into account when it was first forming Shining Hopper, which is why it had to go back to the drawing board. The idea that Shining Hopper had to be completed by including information from the other progress keys that had not been incorporated before, I don't know if it felt lazy or like an artificial intelligence wouldn't overlook those things, but I don't know. I think it just felt like too simple of a solution, and I wish that maybe the end of the last episode and the beginning of this episode had been structured differently so that he didn't have Shining Hopper have it fail and then have to come up with some workaround for its current limitations. In order for Shining Hopper to fully be functional, Izu's prepared to sacrifice her life Wazoo ends up doing it. Wazoo was only around for this episode and the last, so his sacrifice wasn't super meaningful. It was kind of neat that he was saving Izu from having to make that sacrifice, knowing that in the future her life can be in danger and there's no chance of her coming back because the older models, or the ones specifically like her and Wazoo who have direct information about Zero-One and the secrecy behind it, like they're not backed up, and that's an interesting element introduced here, but it just doesn't really have much of a payoff. All that stuff is kind of frustrating, and then the one redeeming aspect of Shining Hopper, or this debut of the full Shining Hopper, is that it really takes a lot out of Aruto to utilize it, and I wish they would have done more with that, and I really hope they do more with that, because if they don't, it all just feels too easy, and like nothing ever costs Aruto anything other than he has to be said that a Humagear died or had to be killed by him, and I just don't think there's enough resonance to that to have that be the actual stakes of the show. Okay, enough complaining for now. Some cool stuff. We got a shot of all the three main writers working together, the Heeden and Ames writers working together, and that was cool to see. They were almost going to have an alliance with Metsubo Jinrai, but that didn't happen. And it was funny because I was kind of speculating about that, but then Hirobi just ends up stabbing them in the back at the end of the episode, which was kind of fun, which I guess you could have predicted that was what was going to happen anyway. But it was fun to see it play out. The fight, but with the others involved, Isamu and Yaiba just didn't really do much. They were more, occupied with the other, the base dodos, and it wasn't very exciting or super meaningful just yet. And again, there were interesting elements. It just nothing kind of played off too well for me here. Something funny to me, it almost looks like a reaction shot of of Dodo saying like, "What? What's going on?" When he tries to kill Aruto, who's untransformed, and the Shining Hopper key is somehow able to make a shield or defense for him after Izu had thrown it. I just kind of didn't buy any of that, and maybe that kind of took me out of it, and I checked out after that because there were some neat things that happened, but again, it just doesn't feel like Aruto is enough at risk for anything to matter, or for there to be the stakes there, and for me to really feel for him. And I almost feel like this is more Izu's show, or more Wazoo's show even. Like, they are the ones who are risking things. They're the ones who have something really at stake, and a loss would matter to them, but he can't lose. He's being protected from losing, so it can't really matter to him as much, and that's, again, frustrating. One more really positive thing I'll say is that the Shining Hopper suit looks way better. I don't know if it's the increased amount of black, the fact that the red disappears except for his eyes, so it's just the black and that neon yellow or green. I think it's green, guys. Is it green? Tell me, is it green in the comments? Anybody? Is it green or is it yellow? Because to me it looks green. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe it's just a little more form-fitting. It's less bulky. The lines on it maybe are more enjoyable to look at. I'm not sure, but it looks really good, especially when he has Dodo beaten. He turns to him and he says something. It's just like, I don't know, maybe he was a suit actor too. Maybe he just looked like extra fierce, and I really enjoyed that. I'm not 100% sure, but there's I don't know. I don't have a problem with the suits so far, but this is probably the better of them all, or the best of them so far. Anyway, there's a real funny moment where Yaiba busts in on Izu and Wazoo in the Ames van, and I think she says like, "Excuse me for interrupting," but at the same time she has her gun trained on Wazoo specifically, and that was just kind of funny to me. She goes on to say like, "What are you doing in this van?" or whatever, but just the absurdity of the juxtaposition of her being polite and having a gun on them made me laugh. It tickled me. So again, I mentioned the thing about Aruto becoming tired from using Shining Hopper, and Izu mentions to him that, I can't remember how she said it, and I didn't save it, but she said something like, "You're adding yourself to Shining Hopper, so it's going to take something more out of you." And he said something like, "Oh, so the tougher the enemy, the harder they are going to be to beat, or the more it's going to take out of me personally." And I thought that was pretty neat. Maybe it is draining his mental faculties because his mind is connected to the whole system. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up right now. MJ Loves Toku can be found on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Check out mjmunoz.com for more of, or for my other review series on the Ridercast, King of Hearts, Queen of Sorrows, which is about G Gundam, Going Ultra, and Swinging Through Comics, as well as my writing projects. Love what I do? Want to support me? My Coffee and Redbubble accounts have you covered. Relevant links below. If you had a good time, like, share, and leave a comment. Subscribe, ring that bell to stay current on weekly Zero-One reviews. And remember, you don't have to shout henshin to be a hero.